My Line. Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who bring the best to you each morning. The widest choice of cereals in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a question about which is the better half of any marriage. I'm sure the gentleman I'm about to introduce would say that Arlene Francis is the better half, and I'm sure she'd say the same thing about Martin Gabel.
On my left, a girl who's getting up very early in the morning to allow Dave Garraway to have a vacation, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now, a gentleman who you see play at night, but who in the daytime is president of one of the leading publishing houses in America, Random House, Mr. Bennett, Cerf.
Well, you know, in Russian, no is niet, and yes is da. And since John Charles Daly has just been accompanying Mr. Nixon on his triumphal tour of Russia, I'm sure tonight we're going to hear a lot of niets and a lot of das. If you please, Mr. Daly.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. I must say it's wonderful to be back, and I'm particularly grateful to that miracle called videotape, which for the first time in 9.5 years allowed me to be absent and still be here for the last 2 weeks' programs. And in celebration of this great event, I won't use a niet all night long. I'll use the good old English nose. We'll have some very interesting occupations which have been brought to the theater by some very nice people in just a moment. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before our panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger after. And now let's meet our first contestant. Will you come in and sign in, please? A. Aklovsky, is that right? Tell us what the A stands for.
Alexander.
Oh, Alexander. It's nice to have you with us, sir. May I present the panel? What's my line, Mr. Aklovsky? You join me over here. Do you by any chance know how we keep score, Mr. Aklovsky?
Yes, I do.
In that event, let's let the folks at home and those who've been good enough to come to the theater and sit in the audience, let's let them all know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, we'll give you the usual bit of information. Our guest is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Mr. Aklovsky, do you work for a profit-making organization?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Akalovsky, I noticed that Mr. Daly very carefully refrained from telling us where you're from. Did Mr. Daly meet you at any time during his recent trip through Russia and Poland?
Yes.
Did you have some official part in this proceeding?
Yes, I did.
Do you speak Russian as well as you speak English?
Yes, I do.
Could you possibly have acted at any time as an official interpreter?
Yes.
Well, there you are. You'll see the travails and pitfalls. We couldn't decide what to do. We were well, should we have him sign Mr. X? Well, no, that would right away suggest to all of you that there was a reason why his name had been in the paper. Well, then if he wrote his name, maybe if we didn't say he lived in Arlington, Virginia, which is right next to Washington, this would perhaps take you down another road. But we'll throw these all over anyway. I'm sorry that they found out so quickly, Alex, but I must say that I'm tremendously proud that he's sitting here beside me. Because Alex, as we call him, Mr. Aklowski, is a United States State Department interpreter. And I watched a man who must be considered by any standards an amateur at television do the most wonderfully professional job last Saturday, a week ago Saturday night in Moscow, that I've ever seen done. He had, first of all, to put into Russian the vice president's speech, the text of which he didn't get until that afternoon. He was translating it into Russian up to within an hour of broadcast time. He came to the studio at Moscow Central, sat down, still making corrections in the Russian, got together with the Russian director who was doing the program, whose name, by the way, was Romanov, and got the two scripts in line with the vice president's, marked for the translations, and sat there for 54 minutes as cool as a cucumber and did a flawless job. I think he deserves a gold medal for what he did.
I think we could spare 1 minute from What's My Line to hear from either you or Mr. Aklowski. Were there any editorial comments in Izvestia or Pravda about Mr. Nixon's radio speech?
Editorial?
Yes. Did they report the thing in the paper?
Oh, yes.
Did they
comment
in
any
way?
Izvestia.
Did they comment?
No. No, there was a summary in Pravda.
But no editorial comment about it. I'm wondering what they said about it.
But there must have been some deletions, weren't there?
No.
No, not in Izvestia. No, it was the full
summary.
text.
Now, this was the signal victory. Actually, I think Alex would agree. And the old hands, Bob Considine was with us, for instance. And Bob, has been to Russia before. Those who were there before were surprised and consider one of the signal accomplishments of the journey that Mr. Nixon's speech, both at the opening of the fair and a week ago Saturday night when he talked on radio and television all over Russia, were carried in full text in Izvestia, and they were reported in the other newspapers with no editorial comment at all, so that there was a chance to get some ideas and facts and statistics to the Russian people. But the thing that fascinates me about Alex is his job is not only interpreting, he has to be a master of phraseology and almost a Roget's thesaurus and everything combined, because I was talking to some Russians who spoke English when he was translating some of the debate at the fair in the videotape studio. And the Russians were translating it to me differently than Alex was. And I tried to figure out what was going on. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that one of his big problems is to take Russian idiom and translate it into understandable Anglo-Saxon terms. Alex, you can give a better example than I have. There was one I remember about the bed bugs that you got straightened up. Bed?
Well, there are sayings that are not translatable literally into English, of course. Well, Mr. Daly just recalled one, which is the best way to get rid of bed bugs is to pour hot water into their ears. This was used by Mr. Khrushchev on one occasion. Now, that means that, the idea that the expression wants to put forward is that why use why use simple methods when you can use complicated ones?
And that's
Things
the
like
way
that,
Alex has to translate it. It's a remarkable performance, and the State Department, I know, is
Mr.
proud of it.
Aklowski, John, I know one sentence in Russian. I'd like Mr. Aklowski's opinion as to whether it's accurate. Быть или не быть? Таков вопрос.
To be or not to be, that's...
Wouldn't that be from us? Well, Alex, may I say that it's wonderful to have had you with us, and it's good to have been your colleague. Well, again, I'm sorry that we couldn't puzzle the panel more, but I'm glad you all had a chance to meet a very fine American. Now let's have a second challenger. Will you come in and sign in, please? Rude Mentor. Is that right, sir? And just so there'll be no misunderstandings, where are you from, Mr. Mentor?
Cedric, Colorado.
Cedric, Colorado. Mr. Mentor, the panel? Mr. Mentor, will you join me over here, please? You know how we keep score?
Yes, sir.
All right, then we'll let everybody in the countryside, except this panel over here, know exactly what your line is. panel. Mr. Mentor is self-employed, and we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Self-employed. Mr. Mentor, is there a product involved in what you do?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it anything that I could go out and buy?
Well, now, wait a minute. Let me have a small conference. No, I think we'll have to let the no stand.
Well, I think that's pretty snobbish if I can't buy it.
There are circumstances under which I think we might agree you could buy them, but they are not readily available to you, so we'll let the no stand. Mr. Gabel.
Is your work done outdoors, as a rule?
Yes, sir.
Is there some form of animal or insect life involved in what you do?
Yes, there is.
Would it be animal?
Yes.
Does it have 4 legs?
Yes.
Is it known for its running ability?
Its running ability? No. No. 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Might be a walking horse.
Is it a large animal as compared to a dog, for example?
Yes, ma'am.
Would I be correct in saying that it is not a domestic animal?
No.
It is a domestic animal.
Yes, ma'am. That's right. 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Mentor, is this animal indigenous to Colorado? Do you find a number of these animals in Colorado?
Yes, sir.
Would this be an animal that is noted for its stubbornness?
No, sir. Stubbornness?
Yeah.
I
Thinking of
don't
a
think
burro
stubborn.
or a donkey.
4 down and 6. We got a little animal here I'm going to get first. Get that flog. Get out. 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Mr. Mentor, this animal that I can't buy is not a horse. Is that correct?
Listen. What's
That is
Dorothy?
correct.
We're hunting.
It is
Sorry,
not a
ma'am.
horse, and it is not a mule, but it is bigger than a dog.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? And it is not a dog.
No, ma'am.
Well, if I couldn't buy it,
Well, maybe just his.
is it something other than a sheep?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
it something other than a cow?
No, ma'am. 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Gabel.
I can't buy a cow.
You're supposed to say, is it something other than a cow?
Oh, no. They expect that, not from you, Arlene. Now, we haven't determined, do you raise cows, Mr. Mentor?
Yes, sir.
Must I find something further?
No,
than
I
that?
think I need to clarify. It is true that Mr. Mentor raises cows, but that is not why he's here. This is something he does casually, being a man of the ranch and the farm. But he has a business beside that.
Well, from what you say, am I right in thinking that the raising of cows is not his principal business?
That's right.
Is your basic business something to do with other outdoor animals?
No. That's 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Francis.
No, his basic business has to do with cows, but not
No,
necessarily
you're not
raising
listening.
them.
That's right.
You're not listening, Dad.
In that one interchange, you see the story of
Now, does your job in any way pertain to the fact that cows give milk? Well, I mean, you
Yes,
pay music for them.
there is a chain, a concatenation of circumstance which would lead from what he does to the milk which sometime or the other might come to hand.
But I would be correct in assuming that your main occupation is not milking cows.
That's right. That's correct.
That's correct. Are cows more contented as a result of whatever you do for them? They are.
Certainly, when a cow needs him, he sure is content after he reaches.
Like a wild bull of the pampas.
Cows are therefore happier as a result of whatever treatment you are able to give them. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. But it has nothing to do with the breeding of cows.
No, ma'am.
Do you have anything that is put on or under or around a cow?
Yes, ma'am.
You do? Let me see. Doesn't wear shoes. Doesn't wear a brassiere. Would it in any way be considered for anybody else clothing?
No. 7 down and 3 to go. I'm going to give you 1 more minute.
Mr. Mantu, this object that you put around the cows, do you do it when they're in their stalls rather than when they're out in the meadow? Would it be more apt to be used when they're housed for the night inside than when they're roaming loosely around the meadow?
Well, now, you've covered a lot of ground here. There's
No, I didn't.
There's a false assumption there. Let us say that when Mr. Mentor gets through doing to the cow what he does to the cow, if I understand cows at all, they probably get as much benefit out in the meadow as they would in the stall. Would that be a fair statement?
Let me explain. I was thinking that possibly Mr. Mentor ran one of those electric milking machines or something like that.
Is that your question?
I'll get off with that, yes. Do you have anything to do with milking the cows scientifically with some kind of apparatus?
No. I'm going to flip him. Actually, this is one I think we'd have a lot of fun with, but we could spend the rest of the week on. Mr. Mentor sells false teeth for cows. And I want to explain very quickly, there are a set of 8 false teeth. The lower 8 on the lower jaw cost $15. They're made out of
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel. And with these teeth, they can continue to grind up food so that they can eat the food and can produce milk. Without these false teeth, they would no longer be able to sustain life and would have to be destroyed. So that this really makes the cow happy when he gets...
So that you're really in quite a big business.
Yes, Dorothy.
I just wondered, John, just for clarification, not that I would have gotten it anyway, but does Mr. Mentor insist on selling his product to the cow directly?
No, if you were listening carefully, I said to you, under certain circumstances, you could buy them, but we must assume they are not readily available to you now. They don't sell them in the department stores in New York. Yes, soon. Mr. Mentor, we've had a lot of fun. Thank you very much. It was great having you. We'll meet our mystery guest in just a moment, but first, here is a word from our sponsor. And now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity. And as you know, I always have to ask the panel to blindfold themselves at this time. Are the blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes, John.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? As you know, panel, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise, and let's begin with Martin Gabel.
Are you in the theatrical business?
Well, yeah, man.
Miss Francie?
Would you be primarily in pictures?
Oh, man, I make that scene, What?
What did you say?
I make that scene,
Yes, make that scene. Yes. Mr. Cerf?
I don't understand that answer.
Well, what? I didn't hear the question.
I'd talk.
What was the question?
Are you primarily in pictures?
Well, the answer was, yeah, I make that scene, which means pictures are involved to a substantial degree. Is that correct?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
S-C-E-N-E-R.
Mr. Cerf?
Do you ever sing songs that use that kind of language as a usual thing? Jive?
No, I don't make that route at all.
Now, the question there is posed as to the language alone. That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you make records that are played in jukeboxes throughout the country?
Well, like, you know, if you're lucky sometimes, you know, maybe something like that will happen. You know, you dig?
And it does. Mr. Yes, the answer is yes, Dorothy.
Are you a woman?
What'd you say, Mr. Gabel?
Is our guest a woman?
Man, I'm hip.
The answer is yes to that. Miss Francis?
But you have a point. Originally, I thought it was Stephen Fetchit. You sing and have you appeared in nightclubs?
Well, you know, like, sometimes I've made that scene, but, you know, like, I don't dig that scene too much.
Yeah, man.
Mr. Cerf?
Are you one of the stars in Porgy and Bess?
Man, I wish I was, but no, man, I'm not.
2 down, a date to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are you really more long hair than you're leading us to believe?
Well, well, man, you know,
I'm a
depends on the
chick.
way-
I'm not a man.
Honey, like, you know, everybody's man, you know. Well, sometimes I go both ways, you know. I'm hip.
Oh, you mean you have made long hair records?
Well, what is the long hair? Where would
Like
that take?
from Puccini, man.
No,
Oh,
that
man, I don't make that scene.
now that Puccini man there got you a no, you did.
Okay.
That's 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Well, then you do sing popular songs, but not this far-out style.
Well, man, I'm pretty far out.
Actually, I think that's a good rendition of all of the answers. We've got a reading of the answers, really, Martin, that our guest does sing popular songs, but not necessarily the way out ones. Miss Francis?
Are you a very pretty young girl?
Well, just to
Yeah.
Well, you know, like,
now, don't raise any doubts about this. The answer to that is yes. Mr. Cerf.
Well, see, it can't be my wife. She's home. Can't be Dorothy and Arlene. Jukeboxing is very pretty. Have you had one of the big 10 records within the past months?
man, I wish I had, but
No?
No,
I haven't made that scene.
4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Would you say that you are more famous for the records you've made than for the motion pictures you've made?
Man, that kind of hangs me there.
Yeah, that would be a rough one, Dorothy. I would say that there is a very substantial reputation in both fields and that each is based in some degree upon the activity in the other. Mr. Gabel?
Yeah, wow.
Have you something, either a movie or a nightclub in which you're opening this week? Or
No, man,
in this
no.
time?
No. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Francis.
And you are not at the present time in a musical that is playing in New York?
No, I don't go that scene at all.
Mr. Cerf?
Have you ever appeared at the Apollo Theater uptown in New York?
No, man.
6 down and 4 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Have you ever appeared at either the Waldorf or the Persian Room of the Plaza?
No.
7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Have you ever appeared at Theros in Hollywood?
No?
8 down and 2 to go, Miss Francis.
Where does she get around? No,
Maybe I do.
Could we have just 1 minute?
I'm
Conference,
afraid,
I mean?
actually, Arlene, I have to flip the cards because we're running out of time, and you
Oh.
may take off your masks and meet Miss Julie London. Needless to say, whose records have had great popularity, beginning with Cry Me a River, I believe was the great first
Cry Me a
record, and
River.
many movies, so that she has been active in a great many areas, but managed to fool you well with that far-out talk, which had me
Sound
puzzled.
so much like Pearl Bailey.
Oh, I wish I did.
Miss Julie, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
our
Mr.
guest,
Daly.
and thank you for puzzling the panel on What's My Line. We'll be back after this word from our alternate sponsor. Well, events are running right up to the wire, so with the permission of the panel, I will say good night for all of us, and thank you for being with us on What's My Line?
Transportation for contestants on What's My Line is arranged by United Airlines. What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. This is Hal Sims speaking.
This is George DeWitt, inviting you to join us for Name That Tune tomorrow night on most of these stations.